Please raise your energy and maybe even your imaginary glass for Celynn Morin.
If you spot somebody lifting a glass with a sparkling beverage, what's the one thing you assume? There's a celebration, right? So that lifting of a glass filled with a sparkling beverage, I mean, it could be champagne, it could be English sparkling wine, it could be Prosecco, it could be kombucha. But that, with a smile, sends a universal message. Something good is happening here. Something good is happening here, by the way, this weekend. And often when we lift a glass, we say Santé. And Santé in French means cheers and to good health, yes. So good health can mean different things for different people, right? It could be maybe avoiding colds and flu this winter, maybe managing hay fever next spring. It could be keeping anxiety or insomnia at bay when life gets really busy. But the one thing at its core, health gives us, at its heart, all of us, is something quite precious, which is more than just wishes or opportunities. You know, a healthy person has 1,000 wishes, a sick person has just one. It gives us margin. And margin to help us think more clearly so we can dream. Margin to help us feel more so that we can fully express and connect authentically with our audiences, with everybody. It gives us margin to live and to speak with more ease, energy, and effervescence. And for me, health and well-being is exactly that. It's an aliveness, an upliftment, a sparkle. And when we speak of effervescence, we invite a whole new possibility of creativity and presence into our lives. So we all know what CEO stands for, Chief Executive Officer. Today, I'd like to invite you to be curious about how you can be more of your own CEO, Chief Effervescent Officer. And just like with the traditional champagne tower, that top glass is the one that's filled first and then it overflows and fills the others. As speakers, that's exactly what we do, right? We stand on stage to be able to fill the cups of those that listen to us. We cannot do that if we are empty or running on without any effervescence ourselves. And so I'm going to share with you 3 ways that I use myself, and maybe you already do, but you could tweak or try something new to help you claim this title, Chief Effervescent Officer. Does that feel like a win if you leave with one of those? Great, great. So why, you might be thinking, why is this South African sounding lady speaking about sparkling wine? So I've got a bit of a story. Champagne towers and champagne is deeply embedded into my DNA. My parents left the Champagne region of France to go on honeymoon to South Africa. They stayed in South Africa for 53 years. And during that time, this happened. So here I am, my first birthday, back in France for my baptism. That is me in the little blue and white dress with my mum. And yes, she is holding the champagne so close that the bubbles were popping under my nose. You can see where the love affair started. Here I am at the age of 7 with my father, and in both photos at the foreground, you can see that champagne tower that I just shared. And this was every weekend. So, and then I always knew I wanted to go into medicine or be some kind of healer as well as a teacher. And that journey took me into dietetics, and I went into clinical practice. And then I had the opportunity to move into workplace well-being. And for the last 2 decades, I've worked with leaders and their teams around health, resilience, and performance. But health is not generally sexy, and it's also seen as a soft skill, which is changing. And so I've always felt that instead of well-being being complicated, contradictory, confusing, clinical, how could we make it more real, realistic, radiant? And this is what Santé is for me. So Santé is authentically from my roots. It's also infused and inspired by the ancient art of champagne making, because I really feel that that is a beautiful story of transformation. So champagne is much more than just the bottle that gets popped and then poured into a glass. It starts with the root before we get to the release. And the roots, the vine, reminds us about our roots. What are your values? What's your heritage? It also reminds us of the importance of connecting to nature and the seasons and natural rhythms of life. Then the bottling process is this gorgeous alchemy that takes place, which tells us about the importance of stillness, of boundaries. And then the popping of the cork is a wonderful reminder of celebration, right? And we don't need to pop corks to celebrate. But it also reminds us of the AI that we need more of. Authentic intimacy. So coming together, gathering, looking at each other in the eye and really connecting, exactly what you've just shared. So let's start with the vine. And what I'm going to invite you to do is imagine you had two big grapes, bunches of grapes in your hands. So please do that. And now we're going to go old school champagne making. You're going to squeeze all the juice out of those grapes. So keep squeezing. There's a lot of juice. Keep squeezing. Got a little bit more grape juice coming out. What's happened to your breath, if any? Holding it. Okay, so release the grapes. We've stopped making wine. There's a direct correlation between constriction of the muscles and holding the breath, and the other way around. Now, so you may have noticed when you've traveled perhaps past wine farms that at the end of rows of vines, there sometimes are roses. Do you know why they're there? Yeah, aesthetically, it would be an expensive exercise, but they're there because they act as an alarm system, right? So there's an aphid or a mildew that will affect the roses before the vine. So the caretaker can be like, hang on a second, my roses aren't doing so well, let me pay attention. Otherwise, I could lose the whole crop. Are you paying attention to your roses, whether they're wilting? What are the signs and symptoms that you're looking at? Because if you don't pay attention, potentially you could get into serious trouble. And that is, I mean, burnout stats are at an all-time high. We are not only sick, we are drained and disengaged. Like the latest Gallup stats are showing 80% disengagement. It's really not a good place to be. So there are two things that you could pay attention to, which is constriction and your breath. Because the stress response happens automatically. By the time you realize you're stressed, you've been stressed for quite a while. And when you're in the stress response, you're locked into survival, right? Like your muscles contract, your heart races, your breathing picks up, you're more likely to clench your jaw, you get headaches, immune system doesn't work so well, digestion slows down because it's not important to digest your lunch wrap if your body thinks it's under immediate threat or attack. Your brain waves stay in high beta, which are more fast, scattered, reactive. Certainly not where innovative thinking or wise problem solving comes from, or creativity. The opposite of that, coherence, or calm and alert. Calm and alert does not happen by accident. It happens by design. So are you designing that for yourself? When you start thinking about your own inner intelligence, because we live in an age, the age of artificial intelligence. And I've already mentioned an AI that I feel we need more of, which is authentic intimacy. What we all have access to and can harness is our own inner AI, which is ancient intelligences. And so we've got 3 intelligence centers. One of them is related to the heart. And your most ancient performance tool is your breath. It's your breath. It's the first thing you do as you come into this world. It's the last thing you'll do as you leave. You can ignore it, and you may just walk through life a little bit more deflated than you need to be, or you can harness it and bring your head, heart, and gut online. And when you combine your breath with presence and posture, that gives you a superpower. Shall we try this right now? What I'm going to invite you to do is bring your presence to your posture on your next inhale, in your mind's eye, your imagination. Say to yourself, strong back. So as you breathe in, you see, I don't even have to tell you what to do. It's all happening. So as you breathe in, strong back. So elevate your posture slightly. You don't want to be uncomfortable like a rigid statue. Just elevate. And then as you exhale, I'd like you to think to yourself, soft front. So soften your face and your jaw. Let your tongue drop in your mouth. Let your shoulders soften and drop towards the ground. Let gravity do its work. Let your core, your top of your legs sink a little bit down. So let's repeat this a few times. Inhale, strong back. Exhale, soft front. Carry a lot of tension in the front. The fight-flight position is very braced. And another 2 times. As speakers, it's really important to have a strong back. You've got to have your back. We've got to have each other's back. Have support, structure, know where we stand. And very important, soft front, to keep an open heart so you can feel life and connect authentically with those that you're speaking with. So this is a technique I use a lot, on stage, off stage, in my car, eyes open, eyes closed, all the time. The more you practice it, the easier it gets, the faster it works. And you won't have all the answers. As a speaker, as a parent, as a friend, as a human being on earth, there will be times you will not know what to do, especially as times go on, but you can always bring your state. Calm and alert is stronger than angry and confused. The strongest nervous system in the room always wins. Calm is contagious. Presence is your power. So this is alchemy in action. And as speakers and fellow colleagues and friends, I really want to invite this. Please, as we move into times of rapid change and uncertainty, be softer with you. You are a breathing thing, a memory to someone, a home to a life. We can spend lots of time in our head and ignore this beautiful body, and coming back to your breath can really help you with that. So now we move from the vine into the bottling process, where there's a whole lot of steps, but the most enchanting step for me is called la prise de mousse. Literally translated as the capturing of the sparkle. Is what makes champagne or English sparkling wine different to Prosecco, which is carbonated. So yeast and sugar is added into the bottle, which is then left in the dark to rest. There's a message there about resting and effervescence. Did you know that when champagne was first discovered, the men, because the women were not permitted to work with champagne, they were considered unclean. The men had to wear like suits of armor because the bottles would explode. How much pressure is inside a champagne bottle? 6 atmospheres. It's a lot. So the bottles would explode. So they had to make a stronger boundary to hold the pressure. What are your boundaries like as your pressure in your life potentially increases? Because as speakers, we hold a lot inside, right? Ideas that want to come out that can't, expectations said and unspoken of clients, our own desire to perform, our own self-doubt. And then there's everything else that has to happen: building a pipeline, doing research, staying market relevant, designing content, getting out to clients, meeting, performing, rehearsing, and living a life in between all of that. And we will never get through everything. There will always be something else for us to do. Another LinkedIn post to think about, another piece of research, another person to call, or a client to be in contact with. And so we need to choose. I have done not everything, but I have done enough. And so do we choose exhaustion or do we choose effervescence? And these don't have to be grand gestures. It can literally be choosing to stop, to close your laptop and take a 5-minute cup of tea before you then engage with your family. We're going to speak through some ideas in a moment. But this takes courage, right? To put you first, this concept of effervescence and well-being. It's why most of us are not well, because it doesn't always give us that immediate reward. And having clear boundaries helps and is important. You know, in France, for champagne to be called a champagne, it needs to come from a very particular area. That's where my family are based. And my parents are now back in Champagne, which is great. It's good for me because I get access to great champagne at great prices. But my mum's not doing well, and so I'm trying to spend a lot more time with them to help them. Actually, she's okay. She's got Alzheimer's, so she's forgetting everything. And quite frankly, I'd like to forget a few things as well if I look at what's happening in the world. But it's my dad who needs more of the support. And a good definition for a boundary that has helped me is it's that space where I can respect you and respect myself at the same time. And so using my parents as an example, I can spend 5 days with them, not 6, 5. And that is the space where I can respect and love them while I respect and love myself. Otherwise, all the therapy goes out the window and I'm like 15 again. So yeah, and remember, every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something or somebody else. Yeah. And so this process of the second fermentation inside the bottle, the yeast and the sugar gets added, and then for a non-vintage, the bottle needs to sit in the dark for 18 months or 3 years for a vintage, but often much longer. The message here is that there's a lot of brilliance and sparkle that can only take place in the dark, behind the scenes. We pop open the cork, drink the drink, but we're like, there's so much that has happened for it to get there. So when you pop onto stage and you're brilliant and you're, exploding with effervescence, there's a lot that has happened behind the scenes, behind the mic, right? And I think today, well, I'm certainly learning this for myself. We need less polished and perfection, and we need more real expression. Because when you look at me, maybe you see this. I don't know. I resonate with the achiever archetype. I am very optimistic. I can reframe any situation. I'm self-assured, polished, very passionate about well-being, very passionate about champagne and the idea of celebration. I'm driven, focused, got high energy. I'm petite, I'm strong. I can pick up my body weight. And I'm committed to my parents. So you can see that. What you can't see or don't always see is actually I resonate more with the seeker archetype, constantly asking why are we here? What's it all about? I'm deeply sensitive. One social media post at the wrong time of night, I'm just not going to sleep. I'm very restless, and sometimes I need to manage my anxiety. Up until recently, I would have said that I was a chronic insomniac. So I've really struggled with sleep. And at the moment, I have such a desire to serve humanity more than just speak. And I don't know how to do that. And that's hard. I can hold polarity, so I can be very joyful and celebratory, but my God, I can ugly cry, and I do often. And midlife and menopause and rage is a thing. I've got soundtracks like make me cry, make me mad. For many years, as part of my spiritual practice, I practice shamanism and tantra, and I'm fiercely independent, but currently I'm lonely. I really, really am ready and want to meet my beloved. So now the invitation is for you to turn to somebody, and I'm going to set a bell. And this is an invitation. You can share as openly or as privately. You can sit in silence for the 2 minutes. You'll have 2 minutes each. And I invite you not to share this, but to share something that feels alive for you to share around what you don't see. And for the person listening, that's all you're doing. Compassionate listening, strong back, soft front, no comments, no questions, no fixing. Look them in the eye if you are holding eye contact, and receive it. And then when you hear the bell, we'll swap over. Got that? All right, so keep breathing. Lock eyes with someone. Okay? And 2 minutes. Please offer a gesture of thank you to the person that you've just shared with. Yeah. How did that feel to share from behind the scenes and to witness and be witnessed? 2 minutes is a long time. Okay.
Vulnerable and liberating.
Vulnerable and liberating. Yeah. Thank you for your trust and for the person that you chose to do that with. Yeah, I think it can be so easy to be, how you doing? Not too bad. No. We need more. Great. So take a deep breath, strong back, soft front, and now we're moving on to the cork. So that cork pops, that universal sound, and then you just look around and you just know it's going to be a birthday, a milestone, a spontaneous toast with friends. But we don't need to pop corks. In fact, we don't want to be drinking too much. That's not good either. I was brought up with a lot of champagne, but it was always quality over quantity, and a bottle served 6, and you didn't open a second bottle. So that's why I can comfortably speak about champagne as a well-being whisperer.
Those glasses and all the champagne coming through the top and flowing around everywhere. What about that? How many bottles in that?
Or it depends how many levels there are, but it's like a bottle 6. So if it's done right, yeah. And in my home, when I was brought up, they were always stacked on a silver tray, and then my mom would pour the spillage into her glass. That was just yeah. So it can be easy to chase the next standing ovation, but really it's the moments in between where we create the most impact. And a lot of us are tired, right? I mean, as speakers, we're highly energized on the stage, but we're tired. So how can you take your heart, your tired heart, and turn it into art? And turning it into art means creating opportunities for celebration, for reconnecting with yourself, because the speaking business is wonderful, but so is the business of life. And feeling sparkling, maybe not all the time, but not just on the stage. So I would like to share 3 champagne moments that happened to me recently in the last week or so. I went to a beautiful retreat center called Kabia in Cornwall, where they actually help ex-felons and soldiers deal with PTSD so that they have PTG, post-trauma growth. Great, yeah. They served the best food I had ever tasted in my life, and it was a weekend. So I was just eating, and it was a joyful journey. It was really amazing. Then a handwritten letter while I was at the retreat finally reached the recipient. I've been crushing on Zach Bush for quite a while, and I wanted to thank him for what he's done in my life. And finally, it got delivered at Brighton Hall in Skipton when I was all the way down in Cornwall, which was a lovely moment for me. And then earlier this week, I had a long trip, as we all do, driving around the country, and I just made it home, Western-super-Mare, for the most glorious sunset. And that was just my champagne moment. So if I were to ask you right now, without speaking to anybody, reflect to yourself, what is a champagne moment that you've had in the last day, week? If something comes up, great. If nothing is, and even if something has, what I'm going to invite you to do is take a quick look at your phone and go to the photos from the last week or two. Don't get distracted by WhatsApp or anything else. And take a look at your photos, because often, we capture things, and see if there's something there that you didn't think about that surprised you. That's a champagne moment. That made me feel good. Would anybody like to share? Shall we pop a cork? Who's happy to share a champagne moment? Yeah, Antoinette.
So, come on, I'm gonna get emotional. I was in France last weekend. We're following literally a dream that I had to buy a house in France. So, we're buying a house, and this is a picture of my husband with his arms outstretched on the top of the mountain.
Santé. Santé. Someone else? Frank?
Yeah, mine first night here, meeting up with Alan. He made his mixture of bourbon and whiskey. I had the cigars. We just sat out there, had our moment.
That's a lovely, thank you. Santé. Someone here? Yes.
Yeah, so this is Jamie Dund, my mate's son. I took him to Fratton Park, the best football team in the world, which is Portsmouth. This is the 5th time I've taken him, and he's never seen Portsmouth lose, and we beat Middlesbrough. And look at that face.
Son, look at that face.
He's also quite a quiet lad, so he doesn't show emotion, but he showed it there.
Santé. Santé. One more cork for Brainy.
So this is a tree that I planted in our garden,
You shared that. I love that.
which I've been hesitant to plant trees because I didn't think I'd see them grow. And it's really nice to see a tree that I have full expectation of seeing grow.
Thank you.
Great to see you here, Brandon.
This is celebration. It can be easy to get distracted. We live in a society that wants us to come from fear and scarcity. Let's not forget. And yes, on the stage, we're popping corks, but what are we doing off stage with everybody? There's also neuroscience that supports this. When you feel good, you change. So we change most when we feel good, not bad. That's because we shift our internal chemistry. We release things like dopamine. And so when you're feeling good while you're doing something, building your business, being with somebody, trying a new health habit, it makes it easier to repeat, and we become what we repeat. So if you can shift your personality, you can actually shift your reality. I won't go too much into that. That'll take us into the quantum. What I'd like to do is remind you of the journey that we've been on. So we looked at the vine, and specifically one way to root yourself and to have calm alertness and good presence is through your breath. Then we looked at capturing your inner sparkle, your inner effervescence requires boundaries, knowing what you say yes and no to, and also what happens inside, this authentic person, can we let more of that come through as opposed to just polished perfection? And then we looked at how we can create champagne moments anywhere, anytime, anywhere, anytime. So I'm curious, with a couple of minutes to go, I would like you to think about what is one thing you're going to harvest from our time together. Just one. There might be, I shared 3 big things and there were other things in between there, but you're not going to leave it with 3, just one. Turn to the person next to you. You've got 10 seconds to share each. What is that one thing you're going to take and potentially commit to taking action on? Thank you. Thank you. Can we have an action from this side of the room? Yep. I forget when you give speakers in a room time to speak. You know, like, so celebrate something every day, okay? And somebody from the back on the side, and then I'll come to the front. One action.
I couldn't do that exercise, so I need to face why I couldn't do that exercise.
Wow, thank you for that authentic sharing. And I'm around if you want to. Okay, come. Okay. Yes.
So yeah, I'm very good at doing morning gratitudes. I'll start my day, but I'm going to start doing evening gratitudes of what I'm grateful for in that day.
So evening gratitudes. I do morning gratitudes too. Evening gratitudes. I'm going to seal that.
Yeah, gratitude before I go to bed, so I'll go to bed on a positive.
Yeah, and you release oxytocin, which releases. Fantastic. So that's your strategy. Don't undermine it. That can help you become your own chief effervescent officer, for sure. And if it would be helpful, I've got 2 meditations. I've been told my voice is soothing, which is interesting because I used to stutter as a child. My therapist found it fascinating that I became a professional speaker. And I do a lot of voice exercises. I've got trauma around this chakra in the throat. So yeah, if you would like to, there's 2 11-minute meditations, and they both got binaural beats and background music. And if you don't like them and are not your jam, it's fine. I've got others, so if you would like more, you can just reach out to me. And I would like to end and lift a glass to you all for being here and remind you that we're not here to impress people. We're here to move our audiences, and movement doesn't come from performance, it comes from presence. So even if you don't know what to say, what to do, calm, alert, use your breath. Strong back, soft front is one of the tools that I use all the time. And don't get lost in the sparkle of the stage. Don't, let the sparkle come from within you, not at the cost of you. And celebrate, celebrate, celebrate every moment. No moment in the future is guaranteed. Thank you. Santé to you all. Santé.